So this is sent in from Seth Luvis, who says, "Hey Folly, been tuning into your stuff for a while now and thought I might as well throw something out there for critique. I created a young hunter character for my senior short animation during school." Very cool. Textured everything as well, so I thought I might as well add some images to put the whole picture together. He's not posed as he was fully rigged. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on how to transfer from 2D to 3D. Probably won't work on him more, but I still appreciate your thoughts. No problem. All right, so we have some images of the textured assets here. I cannot open them in another tab here. Very quickly. There's the head textured, the cloth, or what would you call that, wrappings, as well as the bamboo. It's a fun texture. And the clothing, which is maybe the weakest out of the textures that you've provided here. All right. So, for transferring stuff from 2D to 3D, some of the most important, here, let's go high on this. Subtool, high-res visible. The most important thing to do is really focus on your silhouette of your character. I don't think that this is an incredibly strong 2D concept. I think it's lacking a lot of appeal, so instead what I would like to do is probably focus on just stuff that we can improve in general. So, in terms of just translating this from 2D to 3D, I think there are just some proportional problems here. Just aren't accurate to the 2D image. Like the scale of these is too small. This part of the cloth in the front, if I run in auto groups here, this isn't coming down low enough. If we just look at the gap here versus what we have here, I think the scale of the legs is fine compared to the 2D. The boots and lower half of the leg are maybe a little bit long and too skinny. Bicep area is probably too small, inflate that a bit. Obviously this is just, up too high. It's a lot deeper kind of gi cut there. And it's actually not even modeled the way it appears in the concept. That's more of like a, excuse me while I unzip. It's more of like a folded over gi type shape, and then it's like tucked in back here. So, just in terms of accuracy, that's something that you'd want to capture. Neck is too fat compared to our reference as well. You want to thin that up, get more of like a Pixar style thing going on. But yeah, so that's what I would recommend. In terms of just like major shapes, we've talked earlier today in our stream about thick to thin and some of that stuff, avoiding parallels. I'll point that out again here. In some specific areas. If we're looking at like our arms and legs, if we look at our arms, we have a slight bit of taper coming down here from the base of the arm to the wrist. I would push that quite a bit further, especially since this area needs to be inflated quite a bit. So we want to avoid parallels as much as we can. So maybe getting some more thick to thin. And then another thing that I want you to focus on for future characters, since you said you won't be working on this one anymore, is thinking about a concept called straights versus curves. So, for example, I think there are some really cool stylized characters that have like these like pencil thin legs. I don't think this is a place where I would try to do that, especially where you have cloth on top of that. So I would probably, with something like this, try to get a little bit more volume on the front side of your leg, try to get a little bit more curve, and on the back have a little bit more of a straight. So when you have this idea of straights versus curves, it creates a nice kind of flow for your eye to follow around your character. And this is something that you don't only want from one view. Your shapes have to read the same from every single view. So this is a little bit messy, hard for me to work on, so let's kind of sculpt on this really fast and start to get a little bit more of a rounded shape on the outside up here into the thigh. And here we can maybe even pull this out really fast to kind of fit around. It's going to take too long here. Just turn that off. We'll just work on the leg. do this one shape here a little bit better. So getting a little bit more rounded on one side, and then maybe we can even work on the angle here so we're not going straight down, and start to get a little bit more curvature in the leg. And then on the inside portion of the leg, maybe that can be a bit straighter. And then obviously on top of that, you'd want to think about the folds here that you have going on. But we want that most basic primary form to read well first. If we look over at my art station, does he have anything going on here in his legs? Yeah, so the shapes here in his legs are pushed a lot further than in yours. But this is kind of the basic thing that I want you to look at, not just for your legs, but for everything. So the front of my leg here, we got this nice curve going on. The back, we got this straight. So we got a straight into a curve, a straight into a little bit more of a curve. Same thing from the front. So, we want these kind of rules and shapes to start revolving around. Inside leg, a little bit more straighter. Outside, a little bit more curvy. Outside, a little bit more curvy. Inside, almost like a straight all the way down. So even this is even true up in my arms. You can kind of see on this inner edge here how this shape is a little bit more straight and a little bit more rounded all the way down into that elbow down below. So these are the kind of things that I really look for when I'm working on those kind of earlier stages. It's not a hard and fast rule of straight on one side of your silhouette, curved on the other. That's a basic way to think of it. The larger way to think of this is to think of complex versus simple. So if you have a shape that's complex on all sides, your eyes don't really know where to stop and focus and chill out for a second. So if you have one side that's a little bit more complex and one side that's a little bit more or a little less complex, it gives your eye a line to follow up the entire character. You'll also see this apparent in poses in general for characters. For example, we'll look at another character here. You always have a side of your character that's a little bit for a pose. So this is not something that you would do probably in the neutral, but the more of this that you can get in the neutral, the better. So from this side, we have this just nice kind of clean line, this clean curve running up the side of my silhouette of my character. Whereas on this side, we wrap around and in and around and all the way around there. So it's created this really strong curve over here versus a really simple kind of curve on the other side. So this is apparent in a lot of different things, not just in the actual forms that you're creating, but in the overall shape that those forms end up creating for a pose. Look up a lot of your favorite 2D artists, check out their characters and pose that they're making, and try to find areas where you can point this out, and you're going to start seeing it everywhere. Look at the individual shapes that they're creating, and I'm sure you're going to find tons of examples of this. Other than that, maybe we can talk about the face a little bit. I won't really say much in terms of accuracy because I don't really particularly like this face too much. But what I would do for your face is maybe you're kind of flat here from the profile. I think what I would try to focus on is taking a step back to those initial kind of primary forms here and really start planing out some of the shapes here. Like in the 2D concept, looks like you could get a bit more volume running up from the cheeks. I think you could get a bit more appealing with some of the shapes in our eyes. We're starting to get this kind of upward look with our eyes. I talked about this in the last two sculpts as well. For our characters, for eyelid order, we always want that top lid to hit first, then the bottom lid, inner corner, outer corner. So you have that bottom lid hitting first, which makes your eyeball feel like it's sunken down in your face, and it makes your eyes feel like you're kind of looking up a little bit, and it creates this really awkward feeling. So I think here in the face, this is feeling really shallow and there's not a lot of wrap here in the face, so just kind of moving that back, it already starts to make this feel a lot better. So I'll just slide that eye back, pull that eye corner back, maybe get a little more depth and wrap here around your eyeball. And you can still kind of keep the, more of a slit for the eye shape. I think those will really help you. The volume around here is just, I think, way too much. So I would probably take that back in, Doesn't feel very accurate to the concept or what we would see in a stylized or appealing character or in real life. So stylization typically mimics real life, or at least the good stuff does. So I'd look at that. Look at the where your surface is turning. So in the side of your face, you should have your main hit kind of be where that zygomatic is, your cheekbone, and then you can get a little bit of a hit kind of flowing from that back corner up to around your nose, and that'll help you to fix some of the volume here in your cheek. This is a really difficult area. I talk about this all the time, but because the nose, mouth, lips, ears, all these different things interact with each other and kind of help shape the face, that ends up being a really difficult area because everything is kind of combining and working to connect all in here at once. So if some of the placement of some of this stuff is off a little bit, it really starts to kind of break down the rest of your face structure. Your nose also feels a little flat on the face compared to the 2D reference. Looks like, just based on that line from the 3/4 that I can see, I'd try to get that out a little bit more. And again, you never want these really soft transitions between the lower part of your nose and your lip. You want that to be pretty tight in there. So I'd tighten that up and get a nice transition there. And then, that was a terrible noise. We make terrible noises with our drink. The forehead starts to slant back really quickly. I would just make sure that the underlying structure here is a bit better, so that from the profile it doesn't feel like it's a 3-head. We want a 4-head, not a 3-head. And we don't want a 5-head either. Some people got 5 heads though. Some people probably have 3 heads as well, now that I think about it. He looks like he has a normal 4-head though. So we'll do that, and then remember I said that the neck feels quite a bit fatter than what I'm seeing in there. It's got the Pixar style pencil neck, so you might want to play with that as well. It's something you could change here. And then just kind of blending all that, making that feel really good. Probably tuck those back corners of the jaw. And stick with that nice clean style. I'd plane that out really fast and probably just work on transitioning between there a little bit better. This feels, I would probably, it's either that your face is just too flat or too far forward. I think it's kind of a combination of the two. So I would probably at least start working on the depth of your face quite a bit more. And maybe slide the whole thing back a little bit. I'd probably experiment with it until I found something that I liked. But I think that'll get you headed in a good direction here. I'm not sure why this is so laggy. Probably because we have a lot of different files loaded in here at once. That's alright. We can handle it. Got 64 gigs in this thing of RAM. So cool. So those are some quick tips of some things that I would probably change in your face. And again, as well for you, your ear sits behind your jaw, not on top of your jawline. So make sure you take care of that in the future. Cool.